Good morning, team. Welcome to week 2 of OS 320. And so this week, let me turn down the TV here a little bit. We're going to be reading chapter 3 of our book, and that's on cultural lenses. And we are also going to be doing our discussion board. And don't forget the individual action plans. A lot of people did not hand them in for week 1. Now, granted, it's only Saturday, so I'm hoping to get some more tomorrow. But that is part of your grade, so take a look and get that in. Okay, so that being said, Wednesday is first census day, so make sure you have contributed to the discussion boards, not just your introduction, but the discussion boards. I am going to keep the week 1 discussion board open a little bit longer because we had some people join the class late and understand. So, anyways, cultural lenses. So let's talk about that. What does that mean, right? And a cultural lens is how we view other people's cultures through our experience with cultures. And the textbook gives a good example of that. For instance, in Middle Eastern cultures with the use of burqas, the veils of women. And I can give some personal experience on this when I was in the Middle East that we view that through a Western lens, meaning that to us, it's a sign of oppression of women. And that may not be the viewpoint in Middle Eastern cultures. When I was in the Middle East, there were protests at the American University and the University of France and this was in the United Arab Emirates, because they would not allow burqas or face veils from female college students. And the women were protesting this, saying, no, let us wear our face veils. Now, their viewpoint is that it's not a sign of oppression, that their beauty, their female beauty, should only be viewed by their husband. And so they view it as a sense of pride. Anyways, that's a difference in our cultural lens. While we view it as a sense of oppression, they view it as a sense of cultural pride and religious beauty. So there is a different viewpoint there. Now, that's not to say that everybody views it the same, but that's how, our cultural lens affects. Also pay attention to, in our readings, we bring up the issue of ethnicity. Now, remember about a year ago, with the NAACP in Washington State, the head of the NAACP, and I'll find an article and I'll post this, and she was a white woman that appeared African American, and she was forced to resign because it came out that she was not African American. But she said she related with the African American culture. So in this chapter, we discuss the difference on nationality and ethnicity. And then ask yourself, how do we treat people that can relate with a culture that is not their national culture? Right? We have movies about this. For instance, if you saw that movie, The Last Samurai, with Tom Cruise, right? He related with Japanese culture in the 1800s, but he did not relate with American culture, his native culture. And we see this all the time. We have names for people like this, quote, wannabes or whatever. Ask yourself, how are they treated? If somebody can relate with a culture that is not their own, or their culture of birth, if you will. And do we do this? I'm French Canadian from my parents, but I grew up in New England. If I moved out to San Diego, would I relate, adapt myself to be a surfer California type person, or even if I didn't move, if I was here, and I adopted this type of freestyle West Coast culture in myself, how would I be treated within New England? Excuse me, I'm fighting a bit of a cold. So these are things that we really have to ask ourselves. So I'll find an article and I'll post it about that woman from the NAACP. I'm sure everybody heard about it. It was very popular. It was in the national news. So anyways, make sure that the individual action plans, and these are a weekly product, and the discussion boards get done. Like I said, Wednesday is the first census day. Also this week, I will post instructions for the final paper, and I'll send that out to you. What I'm thinking of is giving you guys an option, right? And so here would be the option. We have a paper that is 7 pages of content, not of references and cover page. 7 pages of content. Cover page and references are extra. You know, the standard APA style, Times New Roman, 12 font, double spaced. But I'll give you an option of content where you get to interview 3 people of different cultures and research, you know, their cultural habits and norms, and tell me about it. Or I'll supply a list of research the culture in a country that you don't know anything about. For instance, and it's got to be something you know nothing about. You know, nothing like, oh, I'm going to research the culture of Puerto Rico, because I know a lot of us are very familiar with that. Research the culture of Bulgaria, of Mali, of Turkestan, or something like that. Excuse me with that cold. But research that and see, you know, once again, 7 pages, and tell us something about the culture, you know. But I will come up with you know, instructions for that, and I think that is will be very inclusive and very rewarding to all of us. Okay, so once again, that's instructions for week 2. I'll find that article, post it, and Dave out. Okay.